Hello there. And first up, thank you so much for downloading this recording. My name's Sarah Maud, and I've designed this recording to give you a greater sense of insight and clarity into the most powerful resource that you and I have access to, which is the mind. Now, over the last decade, I have been working with people on a one-to-one level in a whole variety of ways. And one thing that I absolutely know to be true is that no matter what it is that you're facing, what beliefs that you have, what's going on in your life, it can absolutely be changed. The experience that you're looking for is one that can be achieved. And the way that I will help you do that is in a whole variety of different ways. So I have a number of skills and modalities and tools and techniques that I use in the form of solution-focused psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, energy psychology modalities like EFT tapping, matrix reimprinting, MAP, and I'm also a coach. Now, whether or not you understand any of those titles, it doesn't matter. All that you need to know is that collectively they create the kind of breakthrough that you're looking for. So I've worked with thousands of people. I've held around about 10,000 one-to-one sessions with people where I've enabled them to experience breakthroughs in as far as their fear of public speaking, breakthroughs in the anxiety that's been like a cloud that they've been living under for years and years and years. Breakthroughs in the beliefs that they've been holding true about themselves, about their self-worth, about their confidence, their self-esteem, their capability. I've worked with people that have wanted to earn more money, but they've felt stuck and held back because of their relationship with money and the beliefs that they've held about money. And I work with a whole number of clients. Traditionally, I work with business leaders and working professionals on a global level to enable them to live a life free of limitation, freeing them of all the limitations that they've innocently placed on themselves that's been compromising the quality of their life and how they show up every day. So let's dive in and understand more about the mind and what's been creating those restrictions and how you can move through them. Now, I am sure that you've probably heard the term conscious and unconscious many, many times before. But what I always find fascinating is when I'm working with organizations delivering training in-house about the mind, about leadership, about coaching, and I ask people about the conscious mind and how much they believe that they're operating from the level of the conscious mind, I always get such an array of responses, ranging from 50% to 30% to 10% to 5%. Now, it would be wonderful if we were operating from the level of consciousness 50% of the time. But the fact is that you're operating from the level of consciousness about 3 to 5% of the time. And that means that if you're not fully conscious, fully present, then the unconscious mind is running the show. So the moment that you fall out of the present and into your thinking, you're in the unconscious. Now, that unconscious mind is a storehouse of programs and patterns, a bit like the motherboard of a computer that's got all of these applications and pieces of software on it that's just doing what it's been programmed to do. And those programs are things like your thinking, your behavior, your emotional responses, the structures, your predispositions, and it's all just being taken care of by the unconscious mind, along with the physiology of your body. And that means that, for example, you don't consciously need to think. You don't consciously need to think about how to pump the blood around your heart, because all of that is taken care of by the unconscious mind. And exactly the same way in how you operate mentally is being taken care of by that unconscious mind. Now, the unconscious mind is strictly habitual, meaning that it works on pattern and repetition. It's like a machine. The brain and the body are like a machine. And what your brain and body are also very good at doing is creating associations. So when we do something, for example, that gives us a thrill, makes us feel good, then we associate what it is that we're doing with the external environment. And that creates havoc because it creates faulty pattern matches. And that means that we think that everything that we're experiencing is coming from somewhere outside of us. So if we were to look at the structure of your unconscious mind is made up of things like parts. Now, you've heard yourself, I'm sure, use this kind of language. Like, there's a part of me that's ready to move up to the next role in the organization, but there's a part of me that's just maybe not sure. There's a part of me that's looking to grow my business, but there's a part of me that's still sat on the fence. There's a part of me that really wants to commit to this relationship, but there's a part of me that's worried about getting hurt. There's a part of me that wants to make more money, but there's a part of me that's worried about what other people will think if I'm really wealthy. So we have these parts which are innocently creating conflict. It's almost like having a sort of a council of people in your head. You've got the part that's scared, you've got the part that likes to feel guilty, you've got the part that's happy, you've got the part that's confident, you've got the part that's sad, you've got all of these parts, and they're creating conflict within the active experience based on your life experiences. We then have beliefs, and I'll come on more to beliefs in a moment. But beliefs are really just thoughts that you keep thinking. But if you think something often enough, it's going to create a belief. It's going to create a neural pathway in your brain. Same as conditioned and habitual thought patterns. So a thought is just two neurons that have come together. But if you think something often enough, they will keep wiring and firing together and creating these neural networks in your mind that, if you're not fully conscious, are running the show. And that's why thinking and old beliefs sound like old news, because they're not the first time that you've thought them. They're very, very repetitive. And then we have trauma. Now, trauma is something which often people associate with big life events, whether that's, say, accidents, whether it's war, whether it's child abuse, whether it's physical abuse, whether it's neglect, whether it's anything major that's perhaps happened to us during our life, during childhood. But the fact is that anything has the ability to create trauma. Anything that creates a high level of emotional response. And actually, one of the things that I've really noticed when I've been working with people is the impact that teachers, for example, have had on people's confidence and self-esteem. So working with clients, for example, who might not have been able to do something in class or didn't get something quite right, and a teacher has belittled them, they've humiliated them, and the child's internalized that as, I'm not clever enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. And that has been something that they've continued to live under the identity of until they've got the right help. We then have psychological barriers such as mindset barriers. These thoughts, again, about what we think we can do, we think that we can't do, and all of the irrational reasons that we attach to those psychological barriers. We have memories, and right now is a memory. You're creating memories every single moment of the day. And the vast majority of those memories, they get processed through the hippocampus into the long-term memory storage. But there can be memories that have still got high levels of emotion, still got high levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone attached to them, which gets in the way of them being processed into the long-term memory storage, which is there where we keep getting flashbacks, we keep getting triggered because those memories are stuck. And in those kind of cases, things like EFT and hypnosis are wonderful at just sweeping those memories through the hippocampus without the need for you to pull them apart and analyze them. And then we have identity. Who do we think we are? What's the identity that we've created for ourselves? So again, that really feeds in to our belief structure and the habitual and conditioned thoughts that have ended up forming an identity about ourselves. And that perceptual map of how you then show up on a moment by moment basis is what's running the show. And so if we don't do anything to create a new inner landscape, a new inner roadmap, then we're just going to keep doing what we've always done. And a bit like the definition of insanity, if you keep doing what you've always done and expecting a different result, then that is insanity. But thankfully, it can absolutely be changed. And it can be changed because your brain is made of neural plasticity. And what that means in simple terms is it's like the brain is this giant lump of plasticine, which means that it can be molded. And it can be molded through any number of ways. You know, one powerful coaching question can slice through a belief structure like a knife through butter. You know, other approaches like EFT tapping, which is an amazing energy psychology technique that can treat and neutralize feelings. Things like MAP, which works with the superconscious mind, which I'll come on to, is absolutely fantastic at treating trauma without the need for you to pick apart your past. So we can use any number of different approaches holistically to create shifts, to create changes in the way that you think, the way that you feel, the way that you behave. Now, one trap that so many people fall into when it comes to the mind, when it comes to the way that they think and the way that they feel, is that they believe that their feelings are based on external environments. They're based on things in the external environment. But the truth is, the secret is that our feelings don't know anything about what's going on outside. So if you've had an incident, for example, at work, maybe you've been in a board meeting and things have got a bit heated, things that maybe shouldn't have been said that were said, and you are feeling frustrated, you're feeling irritated, you're feeling any number of things, and you associate those feelings with that experience, with that person, with what was going down in that meeting. And because, as I mentioned earlier, the brain's a machine, an associating machine, you believe that your feelings are coming from somewhere else. But the fact is that your feelings are coming from thoughts taking form in the moment. Now, given that we have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, we're not going to be consciously aware of what we're creating in the moment in terms of thought, but we are always creating. We're creating an inner response based on the totality of all of our experiences. But when we feel something, we're looking outside of ourselves to try and understand, why do I feel the way that I feel? Instead of actually, what is it that I'm creating in this moment? What is it that I'm making this situation mean? What am I believing to be true in this moment? And when you start to understand that outside in misunderstanding of life, I guarantee it becomes a game changer. And my clients talk about just how empowering it is to know that they don't need to give their power away to the feelings that they're experiencing. So that in and of itself is like gold dust, it's like magic when it comes to creating shifts and transformation. Now, beliefs, the beliefs that we hold, the core beliefs that we hold, the vast majority of these are created by the age of 5. Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't really know that much about the way that the world functioned and myself at the age of 5. But up until the age of 5, we're in a very slow brainwave state, a very slow delta brainwave state, which is akin, delta theta. So it's akin to sort of deep sleep, the hypnotic state, where we're just absorbing vast amounts of information. And the information that we're absorbing, we're internalizing, and we start to create perceptual filters, which means that the way that we experience life from the inside out, we're doing based on those perceptual filters. It's like we can only see what we're conditioned to see. We can only experience life from our current level of thinking, from our current level of understanding. So these beliefs that have been formed, beliefs like I'm stupid, I'm not worthy, I have to be seen to be perfect. That was a big belief in myself. I felt like I had to be seen to be perfect, and that manifested itself as I must try harder. I need to keep proving myself. And in constantly trying to prove myself, I was also burning myself out. I was working much, much longer hours than maybe some of my colleagues. If I dropped a ball, a metaphorical one, I would become so hard on myself. I'd give myself such a whacking. And yet that belief, I couldn't even tell you where that belief came from. And actually, we don't need to know where these beliefs come from. We just need to know that they're just beliefs. That these beliefs are coloring our experience moment to moment to moment. And it's so satisfying when I'm listening to a client one-to-one and they're talking about something that they're stuck with, and I'm hearing the story, and it's often one that they're not aware of, but I'm hearing things at a different level. And when I start to feed back what I'm hearing, it's like the lights start to go on. They start to experience those aha moments, those insights, and that alone can create such a profound shift in the way that you experience life. Because these beliefs are just thoughts. They're just thoughts that you've thought again and again and again, and they've gone on to create stories. Stories where you're the main character, and you've just told these stories so many times that they've become your truth. Doesn't mean that they were ever true in the first place, but there was just part of you that bought into that truth. And if you tell yourself something enough times, you're going to believe it. In the same way that if you think about something enough times, it's going to seem real. And that's because of our consciousness. Our consciousness is what makes things seem real. It's like it brings it to life, it animates it. And people, they get so consumed with their thinking. Take something like anxiety. The person that's experiencing anxiety, they think that they're thinking about a situation, but really they're just experiencing a high volume of thoughts, repetitive thoughts, and it's like experiencing those thoughts at 100 miles an hour. And if you're doing that, if you're thinking a lot of thoughts, it's going to create feelings. It's going to create a physical response in your body. And so when you start to understand more about the thoughts and the illusion of your thoughts, you know, thoughts are like the best special effects department ever. When you start to see through that, it's such an empowering experience for people that I work with. Now, what we also have is something that's perhaps not necessarily talked about very much in coaching or even in a therapeutic session, but what we also have access to, every single one of us, is the superconscious mind. Now, the superconscious mind is like what we also might refer to as infinite intelligence. It is that intelligence, that wisdom that flows through you. It's not that some people have got access to it and others don't. We all have access to it. And an example of where it shows up is when we are looking for an insight into a situation, into a problem, into something that we need to resolve. Now, if you think about where do you get your most powerful insights, where do you get those aha light bulb moments? I guarantee you don't get them when you're sat in front of your computer. I guarantee that you don't get them when you're running around a hospital performing life amazing operations. I guarantee that if you're working on a deposition, that that's not where you get them from. I'm guessing, I'm really willing to guess that you get them when you're in the shower, or when you're in the bath, or when you're walking the dog, when you've got very little on your mind. That's when you get those aha moments. And suddenly it's like, oh, I've got the answer. I know what it is that I need to do. That is the wisdom and intelligence. That's speaking to you, that's working through you. Because we can't resolve problems, and Einstein said this, we can't resolve problems that were created from the level of thinking. You can't think your way out of a problem. It seems like you can, but all that we end up doing is tying ourselves in knots because we think that we're thinking about the problem, but we're just really thinking about our thinking. And then we get ourselves so tied up, so worked up that we can't see the wood for the trees. So it's in those moments where we've got less on our mind that we create space to really hear that wisdom and that intelligence, to be able to receive those insights. And it's using that superconscious mind in sessions, whether that's through coaching. Now, when I'm asking really powerful coaching questions, I'm allowing the person that I'm working with to tap in to that knowledge and wisdom, to tap into what they already know to be true. It's just that they can't see it because they've got a belief that's there, that's acting as a barrier, a psychological barrier that's getting in the way of them being able to access things. And that's the power of coaching questions. It gets the mind thinking in different ways. It settles the mind down to allow that wisdom and intelligence to come through. Or it might be that using things like MAP, I'm working with your superconscious mind to give it instructions to treat and neutralize trauma, parts, complex structures, fields, predispositions, content memories, emotional memories, shadow memories, tandem memories, any number of things. I'm using the power of your superconscious mind to create those shifts. And again, in a way that you don't have to analyze your past. You don't have to pull it apart. You don't need to go delving into anything. You can actually just experience these shifts, letting the superconscious mind do the heavy lifting for you. So what is it that we are creating? Well, it kind of goes back to what I was saying, that everything that we are experiencing is just thought taking form in the moment. And by thought, I don't mean thinking. By thought, thought is an energy. It's an energy that we are using to create our experiences from the inside out, moment to moment to moment. And if we work together, I will help you to understand this at a much, much deeper level. But what it means for us is really empowering, because once you understand what's creating your experience, you know that nobody can then make you feel anything without your permission. Now, that's not to say that we don't have human experiences. That's not to say that sometimes I don't get frustrated or lose my temper or anything like that. But I recognize, I have that insight of where my experience is really coming from. And it means that my emotions don't consume me. And what that means for you and for my clients is a much clearer mind, a much greater sense of peace of mind, a feeling of feeling grounded, feeling in control. It leads to greater results, greater performance in anything you do. Because when we're creating our experiences from that clarity of mind, well, any number of magical and amazing things can happen from that place. So I trust that this has got you thinking. I trust that this has got your mind already firing and wiring in new ways. And if your mind is kind of going, I'm not really sure what she said, that's brilliant. Because what we want to teach your mind is a new level of understanding. We don't want to try and teach it what it thinks it already knows. We don't want it to just filter out things going, yeah, I know this, I know this. So if you feel like your eyes are rolling around in the back of your head because you're not quite sure what I've said, that's brilliant. That already lets you know that your mind is starting to work in a different way. So take the next step, hop onto the website, sarahmaudhypnotherapy.com, where you can book a free consultation with me, or drop me an email, sarah@sarahmaudhypnotherapy.com. And I really look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye-bye for now.